Very good evening everyone. Welcome to Bajirao Ias Academy. The analysis of 2025 mains question papers. Now you all knew that we have been discussing 2025 Gender Studies paper 1 question and answers. And in fact, in this particular session, so we'll be looking into the structuring of the questions. Like first of all, we'll understand the themes of these questions and how to structure the answers and what type of a content that we should write so that the answer would be more impactful, and how to score good marks. And in fact, this is part of our daily analysis of mains answer writing, so that you will get important insights about the mains answer writing. And we all knew that in order to get a top rank, you have to write good answers. So therefore, the overall objective of this session is to make you adequately equipped with the skill to write the best possible answers. And the first question that we are going to discuss, and in fact it is also part of the Gender Studies paper 1 mains examination 2025. Now the question is, how does smart city in India address the issue of urban poverty and distributive justice? Now when you look at this question, so first of all, you have to understand that how smart city mission the union government has launched to rejuvenate the urban infrastructure, to remodernize the urban centers, because the urban centers are known as the growth engines. We all knew about that. Urban centers are known as growth engines because around 60% of India's growth is coming from the urban centers, despite the urban centers are accounting for just 30% of India's total population. So therefore, in this context, the urban centers are also facing a lot of issues, particularly urban poverty and the issue of distributive justice. Now in the introduction of this question, first of all, what you have to do, you have to introduce the smart cities mission that was launched in the year 2015, right? So in the year 2015, 100 smart cities have been selected by the union government, and the 100 smart cities will be developed by both center and state governments. However, what is the objective of smart cities mission? The overall objective is to create sustainable and also citizen-friendly urban spaces. Sustainable plus citizen-friendly urban spaces. Right? So how can we create sustainable and citizen-friendly urban spaces? Through the use of smart technologies. So we will create sustainable and citizen-friendly urban spaces. Now this is how you have to briefly introduce this particular question about the smart cities, and then you have to go for the core theme of this question in the body part of the answer. Right? So what is the core theme of this question? The core theme is that how smart cities mission will address urban poverty and also the issue of distributive justice. Right? So these are the two core themes which were asked in this question. And make sure when you are explaining how smart cities will address the problem of urban poverty and distributive justice, you have to mention adequate amount of examples and data to enrich and substantiate your points. And finally, you have to conclude the answer. So you can mention any committee, so you can use creamy words, and you can also write some suggestions. Right? So this is how you have to conclude this answer. Now, as I've already told you that the Smart Cities mission has been launched in 2015 for sustainable and citizen-friendly urban spaces using smart technologies. However, in body part of the answer, you have to talk about the affordable housing. So Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, it talks about the affordable housing, inclusive infrastructure, housing, water, sanitation, transportation, everything comes under the inclusive infrastructure. So you have to talk about that as well. And digital services and e-governance, you need to mention the examples like Surat and Indore, and skill development, job creation, and safer accessible public spaces and public transportation as well. So this is how you have to address the core theme of this question, and ultimately in the conclusion, so you have to mention that the planning in the urban centers should be inclusive, participatory, equity driven. So that is how you have to write a holistic and a comprehensive answer, and that ensures you get a good marks for this answer. Now in the introduction, I would like to explain you about the smart cities mission. So even though introductions are not too lengthy, so you just have to write around 25 to 30 word introduction, so that would be enough. But here I am explaining you the smart cities mission as well along with the introduction. Now in the beginning of this class, I've told you that smart cities mission has been launched in the year 2015. The objective of the smart cities mission is to create sustainable plus citizen friendly infrastructure in the urban centers using smart technologies. So this is the objective of creating or launching the smart cities mission. However, the smart cities mission is under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. So in the answer, there's no need to mention this, right? So I'm just explaining what exactly is a smart cities mission. I'm giving you the additional content, right? So smart cities mission is a flagship program of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, right? So as I've already told you that the urban centers have a core infrastructure. Now in fact, through the smart cities program, so the objective is to strengthen the core infrastructure in those urban areas. For example, public transportation. So don't you think that public transportation is part of the core infrastructure of the urban centers? And the solid waste management. So this is also part of the core infrastructure of the urban centers. And apart from that, the clean and sustainable environment has to be created. So this is another objective, and decent quality of life to the citizens through the application of smart technologies or smart solutions, right? So this is the objective with which the smart cities mission has been launched. Initially, the smart cities mission has targeted 100 cities, right? So through a process called competitive process, and it has been backed by funding as well, right? So initially 100 cities will be developed as smart cities with the funding from both central and state governments as well. For example, around 48,000 crore would be provided by the central government, and rest of the funding would be provided by the respective state governments along with the urban local bodies, right? So therefore there is a robust funding mechanism for the smart cities mission implementation as well, right? And in fact, the mission is backed by the technological and infrastructure goals. However, the smart cities mission also has the ability to address the urban poverty. So we all knew this, urban areas also there are slums, right? So slums, poor sanitation, poor hygiene, and people who are living in below poverty line in urban areas also. So therefore it is also important to address the problem of urban poverty. Now along with the problem of urban poverty, the issue of distributive justice should also be given adequate attention, right? So how can we address these two goals? Now firstly, fair allocation of the existing resources, right? So there should not be misuse of resources, there should not be inequitable distribution of resources, rather the focus should be on fair allocation or fair distribution of the resources, services and opportunities as well. And that is how we will achieve both urban poverty, we will eliminate urban poverty and achieve distributive justice. Anyway, you're not advised to write such a lengthy introduction. Make sure that you just write 25 to 30 word introduction about the smart cities mission and its ability, its potential to reduce urban poverty and achieve distributive justice in urban areas. So that would be enough and that would be fine. So next we'll understand how smart cities address urban poverty and distributive justice, because understand this is the core theme of the question. So since it is the core theme of the question, so we should understand how it addresses urban poverty and distributive justice. So firstly, don't you think that the smart cities mission will provide affordable housing and slum rehabilitation? Because already there are programs called Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban. Now what is the objective of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban? It is to provide homes to homeless, right? So provide affordable homes to homeless. So this is the objective of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Now in fact, a lot of people are migrated to the urban areas in past 2 decades. However, because of high cost living in the urban areas, most of the people who are migrated to the urban centers, they are living in slums, right? So they are living in slums. The best example would be a slum like Dharavi in Mumbai. So therefore, in order to alleviate the urban poverty, it is very important that we need to launch and best use schemes like Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban in the smart cities program, right? So in these smart cities mission, so what we have to do, we need to integrate smart cities mission with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. So therefore, we can provide affordable and accessible housing for the urban poor, and that would be the first step in alleviating the urban poverty, right? So therefore, the focus should be on in situ slum redevelopment. For example, there are number of slums in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata. You need to identify all these slums, because these cities also the metropolitan cities, and they are also smart cities. So therefore, you need to carry out the in situ slum redevelopment using land as a resource, right? So not ex situ, rather in situ. So development of a slum itself, not relocating the people. So you have to use the land as a resource, and redevelopment, you have to plan the redevelopment of the slum, right? So this is how you will provide basic standard of living, affordable and accessible housing for the people who are living in these slums, right? So one best example would be Ahmedabad smart city, right? So over 14,000 houses have been constructed as part of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana for the economically weaker sections in the Ahmedabad city. So therefore, we have provided affordable housing for the slum dwellers. And another best example would be Bhubaneswar, right? So capital city of Odisha, and in fact it is a top ranking smart city in India, and it has linked the smart cities mission projects with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Remember, I've told you that there is a need to link the smart cities mission with the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, and Bhubaneswar did that, and it has delivered 24,000 housing units to the urban poor. So therefore, this is the best method. This is the best method to alleviate urban poverty. So what type of an impact it would have if we construct the houses for the urban poor through utilizing or integrating Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and the smart cities mission? The impact would be, it addresses the urban poverty by reducing homelessness and ensuring security of tenure for the urban poor, right? So once they have the affordable housing and ensured security of tenure, so it would have multiplier effect in terms of their access to education, healthcare and employment opportunities as well. So don't you think, when people have adequate access to education, healthcare and employment, so don't you think that the urban poverty would be alleviated or would be eliminated? Yes, there is a chance when people have adequate access to education, healthcare and employment, right? So this is how, when you provide affordable housing for the urban poor, that could alleviate the urban poverty as well. Now in fact, we should not forget the aspect of distributive justice. So what we have did was, through Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and integrating this with the smart cities mission, what we actually did, we interlinked things, right? So we have provided the affordable housing. We have provided affordable housing for the people who are otherwise poor, right? So don't you think that it is part of distributive justice, where we have distributed the land, we have distributed the existing resources in a fair manner? Next is inclusive urban infrastructure, right? So if we talk about the inclusive urban infrastructure, there are number of dimensions, number of areas which forms part of inclusive urban infrastructure. For example, the smart cities mission, so it focuses on universal access to water supply, right? So water supply is very important for the urban citizens, and along with that, sanitation and hygiene is also very important. Access to energy and mobility, right? So through smart cities mission, what has been planned is universal access to energy, mobility, water supply, sanitation and hygiene, right? And priority to non-motorized transport and last mile connectivity as well. So these are the basic tenets of the smart cities mission and its focus on creating inclusive urban infrastructure, right? So the people who are living in these urban centers, they should have access to water, they should have access to sanitation, and they should have access to the sustainable mobility, and they should also have access to the energy, and this forms part of the core infrastructure in the urban centers. So therefore, the smart cities mission should focus on the core infrastructure as well to achieve urban, distributive justice, along with eliminating urban poverty, right? So it is also very important to eliminate urban poverty, right? So when you don't have access to energy, when you don't have access to water, when you don't have access to sanitation, what does that mean? So it means that there is a rampant urban poverty, right? So but when you have launched a program like smart cities mission, and when you told that you will provide universal access to all these basic amenities, that's don't you think that it means eliminating or alleviating urban poverty, achieving the urban distributive justice, right? So once you explain this, please mention the examples as well, right? So remember, I told you that once you write every point, so after writing every point, you just have to mention some examples as well along with those points, because that can actually create a very good impression about your answer. Now the best example is Pune Smart City. So what Pune Smart City has done? So Pune Smart City has implemented rainwater harvesting and 24/7 water supply for the people, for the residents of Pune. Now what happened was, through rain harvesting, they are recharging the groundwater tables, and they are also able to provide 24/7 water supply to the residents of Pune Smart City. So therefore, don't you think that it benefits both rich and poor who are residing in Pune? And another best example is, so if you have another example, you can also mention that example. For example, Bhopal. So it has introduced e-rickshaws and low floor buses, right? So therefore it enhanced the affordable mobility for the working poor as well. Now you have to write such examples in the answer, right? So by providing e-rickshaws, to the poor and marginalized sections of the society, so they would earn the livelihood first option. And apart from that, apart from earning livelihood, so it would also result in sustainable urban public transportation. Sustainable urban public transportation. So don't you think that it would have an effect on alleviating the urban poverty, right? So therefore the ultimately impact would be, this actually ensures the distributive justice, because you are providing infrastructure for the energy, mobility, sanitation and water. So that ultimately results in distributive justice, because you are making all the basic services accessible to the people, especially urban poor. So therefore this actually reduces the dependence on informal or unsafe service alternatives, right? So next point would be digital inclusion and e-governance, right? So smart cities mission also integrated with the existing e-governance programs. Now what is the objective of e-governance? So provide doorstep delivery of services, right? So doorstep delivery of services provided within a proper timeline. So there will be a timeline, within the timeline services will be provided. And with the e-governance, what happens is that more transparency and accountability in the administration, more transparency and accountability in the administration, and ease with which citizens can actually receive those services. So this is the benefit and advantage of the e-governance. So therefore there is a need to integrate the smart cities mission with the e-governance plans. There are initiatives also, for example, the integrated command control centers. So the integrated command and control centers have been launched for the city management. They are being launched for the city management. And in fact, the use of information and communication technology, it actually provide e-services, right? So what are these e-services? The doorstep delivery of all the necessary services. So you can pay the property tax payment, you can apply for any certificate, and you can also redress your grievances through online and the public feedback portals. So ultimately, when you integrate e-governance with the smart cities mission, so it would result in excellence in the governance. And apart from that, it would also result in the distributive justice, since it arrests corruption as well. How it arrests corruption? So when it brings transparency and accountability into the administration. Now what generally happens with the transparency and accountability? Now it reduces the corruption, right? So therefore it ultimately results in the distributive justice and the elimination of the urban poverty as well. Urban poverty will also be eliminated. Now what should be the best example in this context, how the smart cities mission has been linked with the e-governance services? Now in this context, Surat as a city has enabled over 500 digital services, right? So it has enabled 500 digital services, and the 500 digital services enabled reduction in corruption, right? So it helped reduce corruption, and it has also improved the overall administrative efficiency, right? So I've already explained that how reduction in corruption would result in distributive justice and elimination of the urban poverty. And in fact, in Madhya Pradesh, Indore, a smart kiosk system has been installed, right? So smart kiosk system has been installed in Madhya Pradesh, and that helps even low income groups to access the digital services as well, right? So what should be the impact, ultimate impact in this? So if we talk about the impact, this reduces the bureaucratic burden on the poor, and it further enhances the participatory governance, giving voice to the marginalized sections of the society, right? I hope you have understood this. Now next we need to talk about the skill development and employment generation. So what are the initiatives that have been launched recently for skill development and the employment generation? Because when we talk about the urban governance, now when you talk about specifically about the urban governance, you need to talk about the skill development. Now with skill development, what generally happens, right? So with the skill development, so what generally happens is that it would ensure that individuals' livelihoods would be secured. So individuals' livelihoods would be secured, right? So there is a high probability that skilled employees would get a gainful employment opportunities rather than unskilled employees. So therefore, if you talk about the elimination of urban poverty, so if you aim at elimination of urban poverty, you need to skill, upskill, and the reskilling of the existing urban population is very important, so that gainful employment opportunities can be generated, and it ensures livelihood security. It ensures job security for the urban population, and it also ensures social security. It also provides social security for the urban residents. Don't you think that this is the best way to achieve distributive justice? Best way to achieve distributive justice and eliminate urban poverty. Now imagine that an individual who completed his graduation or her graduation and who is looking for a job. Now he enrolled in a skilling program. Immediately after enrolling the skilling program, after he completed this program, he gets a fair job. So earlier he was a poor, but now he is earning a decent income. So there is a high probability that he would come out of this cycle, right? So he would come out of this chronic cycle of poverty. So that's how you would eliminate the urban poverty and also ensure the distributive justice in these urban centers, right? So this is how you will ensure the distributive justice in urban centers. Now what are some examples in this context? So let's understand the examples as well. For example, Chennai Smart City Limited. So this Chennai Smart City Limited has partners with National Skill Development Corporation, right? So Chennai Smart Cities Corporation Limited has partnered with National Skill Development Corporation, and that has resulted in skilling 6,000 plus youth, right? So 6,000 plus youth are being skilled in sectors like information technology, construction, and retail sectors. So this is how you would alleviate the urban poverty. Now what impact does it have? So if we talk about the impact, so it would create the livelihood opportunities for the people. Now remember, as I've already told you, that the livelihood security, social security, job security, right? So therefore it would ultimately target the urban unemployment and also the underemployment among the poor, and it provides them the livelihood security, right? So this is how you can eliminate the urban poverty and achieve the distributive justice. And apart from that, there is a need to focus on the public spaces and safety as well, because in the smart cities, safety and security is very important. Particularly the safety and security of women is very important, right? So therefore in recent times, the crime rate in the urban centers is also relatively very high. So therefore it is very important that we need to create public spaces which are safe and secure for the woman. Now when you make public spaces safe and secure, so women would be ready to engage in the workforce. So you can increase the participation of women in the workforce, right? So for alleviating the urban poverty, how important the female labor force participation. So female labor force participation is very important, and it is intricately linked with the safe public spaces and secured public spaces, right? So therefore there is a need to revitalize the existing parks and green spaces, streets, open spaces with inclusivity in design. So there is a need for a regular surveillance, right? So there is a need for regular surveillance. For that, what you have to do, you have to install the CCTV cameras. So identify some potential hotspots. There are some potential hotspots. You just identify those potential hotspots and install the CCTV cameras and increase the surveillance, ensure safety and security. So you have to generate confidence. You have to generate confidence for the women that we will ensure safety and security. We will ensure safety and security, and that is very, very important. That is very crucial. And along with installing the CCTV cameras, so we can also think about the smart lighting as well, right? So we should also think about the smart lighting as well. Now the best examples would be, so indoors transformation of Rajwada area, right? So this included the pedestrian zones with seating and sanitation for vendors and homeless people. And another example would be Agra Smart City. Now how Agra Smart City has ensured safety and security of a woman and safe spaces, because it has installed more than 1500 plus smart cameras for the regular surveillance in high crime areas. So therefore installation of 1500 plus smart cameras has improved women's safety in low income neighborhoods, and that's very important, right? So overall, what would be the impact? So we should also understand the impact of this. Now, as I've already told you that the female labor force participation is very important, particularly in the urban centers. And if you carefully observe the data of female labor force participation, in urban areas, the female labor force participation is less than the rural areas. So one reason is lack of safety and security in the urban centers. So if we focus on safety and security of women, then it increases the confidence, and there are chances that more women would participate in the labor force. So when more and more women participate in the labor force, don't you think that it would have a multiplier effect in alleviating urban poverty? So when women come forward, their decision making power increases, healthcare, access to education, so all these indicators will further improve. So that's how you can reduce the urban poverty and also achieve the distributive justice as well, because here you are reducing the potential gender equalities, right? So you are reducing the potential gender equalities, and that is a very important in any society. So ultimately, what should be the impact? The impact is achieving the social justice, because you are making the urban centers safer and more livable for the vulnerable sections of the society, particularly women and the homeless people. So in conclusion, what you have to write? So in the conclusion of the answer, ultimately either you could provide the suggestions, either you could mention some committees, or in the conclusion, so you just mention how important the smart cities mission is to achieve urban distributive justice and eliminate urban poverty, right? So it is being said that the smart cities mission has adopted area based approach. So this has adopted area based approach or area based focus. So this area based approach can identify the potential areas where there is a high vulnerability. So therefore there is a possibility of identifying and addressing vulnerable groups, right? So therefore, in order to achieve a real distributive justice along with elimination of urban poverty, so we must plan the urban centers in an inclusive, sustainable, participative and equity driven, right? So these principles must be included. These principles must be included in urban planning, and that is going to benefit all the citizens, specifically the poor sections of the society, right? So that's all in this session, and thank you so much. And if you have any suggestions, please provide those suggestions in the comment section, and even if you have any doubts, please write those doubts to us. Thank you.